Culture is a complex set of shared behaviors that distinguish groups. Approaching culture as an anthropologist, understanding fundamental differences and universal constants, can help resolve dilemmas and achieve cultural synergy. Culture is a set of beliefs, attitudes, values, and perspectives on how the world works. Culture is invisible and can be handed down from one generation to the next. Culture becomes more observable when we look at cultural settings. A cultural setting is created whenever two or more people get together to perform some task. Settings occur at work, home, school, a house of worship, or a place for recreation. As people interact within the cultural setting, they exhibit behaviors that are the result of their culture. Geert Hofstede, a pioneer in intercultural business communication, notes that culture is only part of an individual's makeup. It shares space with and can be affected by the individual's personality, which is a product of inheritance and experience. Human nature, which is universal, such as feelings of joy or loss. Layers of culture. Concentric circles showing the layers of culture, starting with basic assumptions from inside, implicit culture, and extending out through norms and values and artifacts and products at the surface layer, explicit culture. As shown in the table below, Shine defines three separate layers: artifacts and products, norms and values, basic assumptions. These include a culture's obvious features, such as its food, dress, architecture, humor, and music. Less immediately obvious are a culture's shared and stated sense of acceptable behaviors, what is right and wrong. These are the culture's core beliefs about how the world is and ought to be. They may be unspoken, and members may not even be aware of them. Culture versus climate. Climate is distinct from culture. Culture is the result of shared beliefs. Climate may result from the actions of a few individuals or external forces. The fundamentals of the organization's culture may be in fine shape, but it is the climate, which is generated by the actions of leaders and other employees, that needs improvement. HR professionals adept at identifying the difference between culture and climate can help establish processes and procedures to ensure that an organization's climate does not create obstacles to achieving organizational goals. Cultural intelligence. Cultural intelligence is the capacity to recognize, interpret, and behaviorally adapt to multicultural situations and contexts. In International Dimensions of Organizational Behavior, Nancy J. Adler describes three aspects of cultural intelligence: cognitive, motivational, behavioral, including thinking, learning, and strategizing. This involves developing a knowledge of cultural differences and similarities and being able to use that knowledge to determine how best to handle a cross-cultural situation. Including effectiveness, confidence, persistence, value congruence, and the level of attraction toward a new culture. This quality enables one to genuinely enjoy cultural differences rather than feeling threatened or intimidated by them. Including an individual's range of possible actions and responses to intercultural encounters. This quality enables one to be flexible and adapt in multicultural contexts. Cultural theories. Edward T. Hall. High and low context cultures. Context level affects communication and relationships. High context culture, A statement's meaning includes the verbal message and the nonverbals and social and historic content attached to the statement. Low-context culture. A statement's meaning is encoded in its words only. Geert Hofstede. Dimensions of culture. 6 dimensions. Power distance. Pattern of distribution of power to culture's members. Individualism, collectivism, degree to which individuals perceive themselves as members of a group. Uncertainty avoidance, level of tolerance of ambiguous, new, or changed situations. Masculine, feminine, degree to which a culture follows traditional gender characterizations. Masculine is rigid and competitive, feminine is nurturing and sharing. Long-term, short-term. Long-term cultures focus on traditions and tend to resist change. Short-term cultures are more pragmatic and see the positive potential of change. Indulgence, restraint, gratification of individual desires. Fons Trompenaars and Charles Hampden Turner. Cultural dilemmas. 7 dilemmas. Universal, particular, flexibility versus rules. Individual, communitarian, the good that drives decisions, the individual or society as a whole. Neutral, effective, expression of emotion. Specific, diffuse, public and private boundaries. Achieved, ascribed, source of merit, personal accomplishment or connection. Sequential, synchronic, sense of time, linear and limited or cyclical and expansive. Internal, external, individual control over one's destiny. Obstacles to achieving cross-cultural understanding. The potential for conflict arises whenever an organization or profession tries to apply practices based on their own values to a host workplace or market with different cultural norms. The challenge for HR is to better understand each of the members and stakeholders of their own multicultural organizations and to foster interaction, understanding, and appreciation of diverse views and opinions. Nancy Adler. Other analysts list 4 obstacles that HR may face in trying to achieve understanding in multicultural organizations. Ethnocentrism and parochialism. Adler characterizes ethnocentrism as, "Our way is the best way and we are really not interested in other ways of reaching a goal." Parochialism goes even further, asserting that, "There is only one way to solve a problem or reach a goal." The viewer perceives and judges other cultures according to the norms of the viewer's own culture and rigidly maintains that narrow mindset. Cultural stereotypes. While certain words are used to describe cultural value dimensions and characteristics, these words should not be judgmental or contain negative connotations. Perceptions of a culture are applied to all of the culture's members, often in a negative manner. Cultural determinism. The culture made me do it. This perspective basically absolves individuals of any responsibility for their actions. Culture defines behavior and therefore excuses some actions and makes changes impossible. Cultural relativism. Cultural relativism holds that because cultures vary so widely and greatly, everything is relative. There are no absolutes. Everything varies based on the situation and the cultural perspective. There are no absolutes. Norms and values vary by situation and cultural perspective. Key content. Cultural disconnects within an organization must be addressed to avoid creating malicious compliance. This can occur when headquarters develops standardized programs that fail to recognize local differences and imposes them on their foreign subsidiaries. Local managers know the programs will not succeed in their standardized form but agree to implement them and then watch them achieve the inevitable results, failure and increased resistance to future programs. Reconciling cultural dilemmas. Nancy Adler described different strategies for negotiating cultural differences. Cultural domination and cultural accommodation are essentially about assimilation. I assimilate your beliefs, or you assimilate mine. Cultural compromise involves both sides giving up some values in order to meet in the middle. Cultural synergy involves creating a third way, finding what works well in each culture and removing barriers to communication and collaboration, including language and policies. Trompenars and Hampton believe that organizations that are synergistic are more flexible, adaptive, and resilient. Dilemma reconciliation has 4 steps. 1. Recognize. Create awareness of cultural differences. 2. Respect. Appreciate the value of difference. 3. Reconcile. Resolve differences by finding a common path. 4. Realize. Implement solutions and institutionalize them in the organization. In a synergistic solution, managers consider to what degree an organizational conflict is cultural in nature and identify the assumptions that may be contributing to the dilemma. Alternatives are then crafted by leveraging points of cultural similarities. Feedback from both cultures is collected to check and adjust the solution as needed. The path to cultural synergy begins with managers who have a global mindset. They appreciate that everyone, including themselves, has a culture that shapes their perceptions and values. Turning to focus groups, employee resource groups, and reverse mentorship can help in achieving the cultural literacy by internalizing the importance of mutual understanding, learning, and training. Analyzing feedback generated by these practices.